Though spoken language interpreting has been discussed in a broad range of settings, until recently, spoken language interpreting in educational contexts in the United States has not received as much attention in the research community. The scope of this work has remained somewhat hidden, given the broad range of people who serve as interpreters. While professional interpreters do work in these settings, bilingual staff, friends, family members, and other students provide these services as well on an ad hoc basis. This chapter addresses the way in which spoken language interpreting manifests in the United States K-12 educational context and argues for the critical role that professional spoken language interpreters can and should play to facilitate language access. The chapter begins with a brief overview of the types of communication that often occur in educational settings, as well as the legal and regulatory frameworks within which language access and services are provided in the United States with respect to spoken languages. This discussion draws on legal mandates and educational policy related to English language learning students, shaping the way that these students are viewed within the school system. Then, the chapter identifies several points of contact at which students and their families interact with school systems, focusing on the role that interpreters can and should play to provide language services. These points of contact include individualized education program or IEP hearings, parent-teacher conferences, and the classroom. Research from bilingual education, child language brokering, and interpreting studies are included in these discussions to illustrate the scope and type of interpreting provided in these contexts. The chapter concludes with a discussion of how professional spoken language interpreters are a necessary element that ought to be systematically provided for students and families who request or require these services in order to create a more equitable access to the U.S. education system. However, it is important to recognize that there is still a matrix of other language services, such as direct access to services via multilingual staff, that need to be discussed in relation to what constitutes language access to education. Overall, this chapter seeks to start these discussions related to access to spoken language interpreting in the school environment.